Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We get together most weekday mornings, 8 o'clock Central, talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. We've had a number of questions and maybe sometimes even some confusion on the two programs that each of you who are branch offices have access to. So this isn't a change. This is consistent from when you first enrolled as a branch office. So the first program is the one that we primarily talk about, which is the startup program. The focus of the startup program is to create a fundable business. I think you're familiar with that. If not, you can go to chapmanloanprogram.org. We discuss that on a frequent basis. Now, today we're going to talk about the second of the two programs, which is called credit and funding. So credit and funding is about creating a fundable person, where the startup program is about creating a fundable business. See the difference? Business focused versus individual focused. Most of what we do is focusing on creating a fundable business. But let's go ahead today and make sure that you're aware of the second resource that you have access to. I was talking to one of our distribution partners over the weekend, and she's a PhD, and she was confused. So I thought, if she's confused, I better reintroduce this. So the startup program focuses on creating fundable businesses. Information about it is on Chapman Loan Program. Today, we're going to be talking about the credit and funding program that includes the free credit sweep. And we're going to go through a brief introduction of that now. So the screen I have shared, you notice it doesn't say anything about credit and funding program, because the educational material we actually lead with is the credit sweep. So let's go ahead and progress. We can get the slides to cooperate. Here we go. So we're going to talk a little bit about the credit sweep and how it works. Again, why are we having this discussion? The credit sweep is included for free in the credit and funding program. And if you're one of our branch offices, you have access to it. So you need to know how this works. So let's go through how the credit and funding program works, with the lead off of the sweep itself. Because once we have improved the credit of the individual, then of course we can help them with personal funding. Different than business funding, which is over on the side of the startup program. So the question here to a prospect is, are you looking for better credit? The free 60-day credit sweep provides a legal, effective, guaranteed, and affordable way to address applicable derogatory items. Secondly, it's important to understand and not confuse this. This is not credit repair. It is not credit repair. Credit repair is different. Credit repair typically is a process of using disputes to have derogatory items removed. Here, we're using a team of paralegals that's using legal strategies. So it's a different approach. Now, does it end up repairing or improving credit? Yes, but we do not want to fall into the trap of calling it credit repair. Now, some of you are in the credit repair space. That's fine. This doesn't compete with you at all. This is just one of the two programs that each of the branches have access to. If this is not something that you want to leverage, it's fine. Again, most of what we do is on the other side, on the business side. Just wanting to make sure that you understand that this resource exists. People tend to like to see testimonials and success stories, so we integrate that into this presentation. So we had a client when we first started the credit sweep several years ago. True story. Client came in, and this may be a little bit small for you to read, but the client came in, TransUnion 524, Experian 528, Equifax 518. Now, there's no minimum or maximum scores to enroll in the credit and funding program, but this is just a success story. In just over a month, we always say 30 to 60 days, but in this case, in just over a month, that client Their TransUnion went up by over 200 points. Their Experian up by over 200 points, and their Equifax by over 200 points. So think about it. If you have someone that has not managed their credit for whatever reason, people always have a reason why they have bad credit. We can ignore the reason. But if you have someone who has poor credit and they want to have better credit, this is a great way to help them. And then once they have really strong credit, of course, it opens up more doors. Now, so credit sweep can be offered as a standalone. That is not what you as a branch office offers, but you can offer the credit and funding, which again is not a change. It's built into your license agreement. It's been there all along. So if the client wants better credit for free and funding, when we marry that together, we call that the credit and funding. And that's where we're guaranteeing a minimum of 100,000 capital raise with no risk to the client. So the credit sweep is free if the client enrolls in credit and funding, if that makes sense. So through a 501c3 nonprofit, we applied for a grant, and it allows us to provide the credit sweep for free for clients that are enrolled in credit and funding. There's just a couple documents that we get from the client. Now, each of you who are branches, you already have, maybe you didn't realize it, but you already have the credit and funding participation agreement. When we sent you that first branch onboarding email, it was linked down towards the bottom, not in a typical attachment, but there's a link, and that link is the credit and funding participation agreement in Microsoft Word. So what can you do? You can download that, remove our information, add yours, change the pricing if you want. With the credit and funding program, you determine the pricing, but the pricing has two elements. What do you want the client to pay as a refundable setup fee? And then what do you want the client to pay, secondly, as a performance fee after they've been funded? So as far as getting started, clients that come to us directly, we just send them to guaranteedfunding.org. We have a page on that site, which is credit and funding. For clients to enroll through you, they're going to come to you. You're going to provide them your modified, your edited version of the credit and funding agreement, which again, we provided you on the first onboarding email, and then you will collect the setup fee from them. Again, these instructions on this page is when they come to us directly. So let's open it up for questions, because at the simplest level, it's very important that each of you understand that if you're a branch office, you have two different resources to make available. Now, you don't have to promote both. One is to build a fundable business. The other is to build a fundable person. What we're talking about here today is about building a fundable person. Can clients do both? Sure, they could do both. Do they have to do both? No. Can we do just the funding side, the startup program, and leave personal credit out of the picture? Yes. So again, this isn't something new, something complicated. It's just making sure that each of you know, as a branch office, there are two programs, two resources, two campaigns. In fact, when we sent you the branch office onboarding curriculum, the training curriculum, it divided it into the two parts to make sure it was crystal clear. But what became painfully obvious to me over the weekend is that some of you have not assimilated the onboarding information that we gave you, so you did not properly understand that there's two different programs. One to build a fundable person, which is what we're talking about now. One to build a fundable business, which is the startup program. So let's open it up for questions, comments, concerns. Got a big group on today, 517 of you. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this Monday morning, the day of the eclipse, right? So who has questions, comments, concerns? So again, those of you that are already in the credit space and you're charging your clients to do credit repair, however you do it, if it works, don't change it. We're not here to interfere with your revenue streams. But for those of you that just frankly weren't aware that this is available, this is probably good information. All right, Jose is asking about the credit suite. Does it take everything off? No. It allows the client to identify the trade lines that they want removed. So the good trade lines the client may want to leave, and the bad trade lines the client may want to remove. But the client will identify, Jose, what's to be removed. So I know credit suite kind of gives you that impression of, oh, everything comes off, but that would be horrible, right? To take someone's credit and take everything off would make them look like they just turned 18 years old or they just got out of prison. So a blank slate credit report is not best for clients. But instead, what we're doing here is removing negative, and then we turn around and add positive. Remember the second bullet here, we can then add the trade lines. So trade lines can be a variety of, they can be revolving or installment, whatever the client wants. But the bottom line is we'll make sure the client concludes the credit and funding program with at least $100,000. So if you are a branch, and let's say you're doing the normal 10% performance fee, you know each client that enrolls, you're going to make at least that $10,000 performance fee. Could be more. But the key to remember, Jose and everyone else, is credit and funding includes credit suite for free, and credit and funding is to help individuals become fundable. In contrast, separately, otherwise, however, I can make it more of a distinguished difference. We have the startup program, which is creating fundable businesses. So one program's to create fundable businesses. The other program is to create fundable people, individuals. So who else has questions? Selena's asking, yeah. So I can share this with each of you, and then of course you can change it so it's a just a 2-page PowerPoint that you can change, especially this information, because you'll want to take this off and you'll want to direct them back to you. So you can see, so Selena, yes, just anyone that wants a copy of this, just email us, support@chapmanloanprogram.org, and we can get this to you. The key thing to remember here is we're leading with the credit sweep, but we're actually providing that for free when they enroll with you into the credit and funding program. So they end up getting this free. They'll pay a deposit, which you determine what that deposit is. Should be a refundable deposit. So the client will pay you that refundable deposit when they enroll, and then they get that back after the $100,000 capital raise. So it's pretty smooth. It works really well. A lot of people have jacked up personal credit, and a lot of people will try things that don't work. This will definitely work. We had a training a week or two ago where we went into pretty deep how this works, because it's not credit repair. Our paralegals will even sue the credit bureaus if the bureaus don't remove the negative items. So it's just a much different approach. But I'm just curious, let's just do a quick toll here of those of you that are on. How many of you are interested in helping people become fundable? Let me be more direct. How many of you think that you'd want to get paid off of helping people with the credit sweep? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Is this a program? Is this a campaign that you see yourself interested in? Because there's a whole market for this, right? These people don't have to be business owners. These people don't want to have to start businesses. They just have junked up credit. So this is great for the consumer market, where the startup program is obviously oriented towards the business market, right? Because startup program is creating fundable businesses. This is creating fundable individuals. It gives you another arrow in your quiver. But again, it's not a new arrow. This has been there since day one. If you go back and look at your branch license agreement, this is included. All right, so Sarah is asking about the amount of the refundable deposit. So, Sarah, you as a branch office, each of you who are branch offices, you can determine, excuse me, what you want that refundable deposit to be. The norm is 2,000, just so you know, but you could make it more, you could make it less, you could vary it by client. That is up to you. You control what the refundable deposit is. If you wanted to make it zero, so they had no upfront cost, you could do that. All right, so Jimmy's asking, he says he thought this was for business credit. No, Jimmy, it's my fault. The startup program is about creating fundable businesses. Today, just today, we're not talking about the startup program. Today, we're talking about the credit and funding program. Today, we're talking about the resource to create fundable people. This is not about business credit. This is not about business funding. This is a different program that our branches have access to. All right, so Celino asked, does the credit suite cater to one client? Well, I don't know exactly what that means, Celino, but each person has their own credit report. I mean, that's kind of an obvious statement, so forgive me, I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but regardless if you have a spouse or significant other or business partners or whatever, or you live in a commune, it doesn't matter. Each person has their own credit report. So here we're talking about taking someone, an individual, and using Credit Suite for free through the credit and funding program, which makes you money, makes you a lot of money because you're paid upfront a refundable deposit if you want. You don't have to collect a refundable deposit if you don't want to, but normally you'd collect a refundable deposit up front, money in your pocket, and then you're collecting a performance fee after they have their trade lines. That's the way that it normally works. So you're making good income. How much income do you make? It's a function of how do you want to price it and what type of volume you're doing. But there's a big market for personal credit improvement. We focus more on the business side, the business startup program, but there's a big market for this. And I do need to make sure that you know that this is a resource that you've had since day one. No changes since day one. All right, so Timothy's asking about how that deposit's refundable. Well, the way that it's written in the template agreement that we've provided each of you, it says to the client, hey, you're going to pay a refundable deposit up front to the branch office. Client will go through the process, get at least $100,000 of trade lines, primary trade lines, real trade lines. And then once they've paid their performance fee off of that, then they get their refundable deposit back. Just like we talked about last week, and I see Larry's on here again. Hopefully Larry will contribute today. Larry, welcome back. The Larry model that we talked about last Thursday or Friday, whenever it was, is building the refundable deposit into the performance fee. So in other words, you bump up your performance fee a little bit to absorb what you're paying back for the deposit so it doesn't decrease your profitability. But we discussed all that on Friday if you missed Friday's training. I sent Friday's training out twice to everyone. I sent it out Friday. I was out of the office. I didn't have the ability to convert it to YouTube. And then we came in over the weekend and converted it to YouTube. So if you didn't see Friday's training, I strongly encourage you to go back and view it. All right. So who else has questions, comments, concerns? Charles is asking, what's he need to do? Well, I mean, Charles, everyone has the credit and funding agreement. You have it. When you signed up as a branch office, it was on branch office 1 of 2 email. Now, if you need us to resend it, that's fine. But you each should have it already. What do? You edit it and you start enrolling clients, right? And so if you need assistance with anything, just let us know. And of course, we should be having one-on-ones. Again, the goal today was just simply to bring to your attention there's two programs, two campaigns that we offer to the marketplace together. The startup program, which is focused on business funding and business fundability, not what we're talking about today, and the credit and funding program, which is what we're talking about today, that includes the credit sweep. It's not credit repair, frankly, much more effective, much more sophisticated in the way that it's packaged. It's available free to the clients, and you can see the type of results that we're getting. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we wrap up today's discussion? Again, we have these group sessions most weekdays, but having our one-on-ones is really important. Really encourage you to schedule your one-on-ones to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to support you. Our goal, without doubt, is for each of you this month to generate $100,000 for your branch. So Bernard, that means you, and Charles, and Eric, and Gilbert, Jeanette, Jimmy, and Justin, Larry. We have 517 now. So all of you, we want you all to generate at least 100,000 this month. Do you know how that works? That works based upon you assimilating this information and then going and helping people. Jimmy says he's missing something big. I don't know what that means, Jimmy, but you're welcome to contact us about what you're missing that's big. All right, well, thanks, everyone. Let us know what we can do. We will see you back tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Have a great day. Bye-bye.